Hey everybody, Quantum here, and in this video I wanted to cover some Ruby Steel Pirates. The deck profile will come at around 3 minutes in this video, but I just wanted to show you this very quick match going up against Sailor's Ruby Sapphire list when we are on the draw, just to show you how fast Pirates can be, because these cheap locations comboing with the John Silver from, I think it was set 3, is very powerful and plays very, I don't want to say well into a Be Prepared, but at least you are not getting completely wiped out by a Be Prepared. The one issue with Pirates is that you need to find some card draw somehow, so you've already seen in my hand and you'll see in the deck list Beast, Tragic Heroes, and A Whole New World. But that doesn't mean you always need to play those cards, because the aggro threat that the Pirate deck represents is actually pretty strong. Here the opponent on the CPU's end, just again a simulation to show you how some of this deck, some of the lines the deck can go for. They are able to slow me down, getting the Brawl off on the Wendy Darling, which would be a very oppressive, aggressive threat. The opponent gets the turn for Hiram, which isn't great for me, right? Getting those extra draws. But we do have the John Silver with triple locations lined up, 2 Bayous and 1 Jolly Roger, which will be able to have our pirate characters move into for free, which is really nice. We don't really need to move them right now, but I guess we could. No harm, it's free. And the John Silver will now quest for 4 and have resist +3. What's also interesting is we have the new Minnie Mouse in our hand, so if the opponent does drop a Maui or something and opt to try to take out our location, because all of them will get taken out by Maui right now, we can just drop the Minnie Mouse, right, for 3, ink the card for turn, and get back the location, then use that ink for turn to replay the location, quest for 4 again with the John Silver. So even though we were on the draw, and the opponent drops the second Hiram here, like, we're still in a really good position. Now, Sailor's list only runs 2 B preps, or at least the list that I ended up loading in here from a little while ago. I don't know if you should be playing more B preps, but that's the only card that really threatens you here, because your characters are fairly strong. Like, they need combinations of Ice Block and stuff in order to have their big Sisu's proc on your cards. Like, even your 1-drop here in the Moana is a 3/2 body, so even that thing is not getting taken out by, like, Brawls and Sisu's. The John Silver's, same thing. And it's really hard to run over John Silver's once you get a couple of locations going. Here you can see we're only on 4 ink, and we are very much threatening to close out the game. The opponent needs Maui and or Be Prepared some way to slow me down. The Sisu's won't do it. Here they just don't have it, and next turn we probably are able to quest for game. Yeah, gain lore from the locations and then quest for 8. And that is a good game. We can take a look at what the opponent had in their hand afterwards. Yeah, nothing that would have threatened us. So didn't even have the outs, unfortunately for them. They did have a Visions coming up, but it's too little too late. Let's go ahead and take a look at the deck list. So what you're seeing here is my version of Ruby Steel Pirates. I did have a version 1 of this, I guess you could say, and I went 1-1 with that deck against actual players. And to be fair, the match that I won, I probably should not have won. The opponent kind of misplayed and allowed me to win the game. And that version of the deck was running things like the Donald Duck and whatnot and trying to run more pirates, and it just didn't work. I then changed it to this, and I still went 1-1, but my matches were much closer. And then as you can see in that simulation, if you do get some kind of line with the John Silver and into locations, it can be very strong and very hard for your opponent to deal with, especially if they're not on wide removal. And the resist really helps against other steel decks. But let's go ahead and break down the deck list. So the Moana was always in the deck. I've already talked about this as one of my top 10 cards from AZURITE. I really like the fact that this is an overstated body for a 1 cost. It's inkable. And in a pirate deck, this card has no limitation, basically, because you will likely always have a captain in play, meaning that if you do want to challenge with her, she will trade up. Why play Captain Hook when you can just play Moana? Even if she's exerted, your opponent's going to throw something into it, and it's going to get taken out. Speaking of Captain Hook, I was playing that, and I opted to cut it because it was just very underwhelming, and I put in the Mickey Mouse instead, which is not a pirate, it's not a captain, but it is a decent card, a 1-cost inkable 1/2 with resist 1, and the main reason you play this, or I put this in, is because I realized that this Mickey Mouse here was actually needed in the deck. I was not playing this card before, and you might be thinking, why would you want to play this? It doesn't really seem all that great. It's a 5-cost inkable 4/4 that quests for 2, sure, pretty standard. A nice little ability, Mariner's Might. When this character quests, chosen pirate character gets +2 and gains. This character takes no damage from challenges this turn. A nice little ability, not anything that will probably come up all too often, but still nice to have. The main reason why, as I found out from testing on version 1, why you want to play this is because it's a shift 3. Okay, you need an early shift line in this deck. And the Mickey Mouse is definitely one of the stronger ones because you will shift from a non-captain into a captain, first of all, into a pirate, which is nice. And the reason you need to shift early for 3 is in case you do need to whole new world and refill your hand, because pirates have no way to draw. Now, as you saw in that demo match in the beginning, and we'll take a look at a few more, you might not need a lot of card draw. You might just be able to keep pressuring the board and just build up a very aggressive board that's hard to out. Especially with the John Silver with locations, getting the resist and stuff, and your opponent just can't push through your board, and you're able to just continue to quest and push for game, especially things like the Wendy Darling and the Mr. Smee, putting on a lot of pressure. This card, 2 cost uninkable 1/2, becomes a 2/2 when you have another pirate, which again you should always have in play, and it gains evasive. So it's a 2 cost 2/2 that has evasive and will quest for 2. It's pretty hard to out if you don't have direct removal for it, like you saw, I think, in the demo match. They had Brawl or something for this card, I think, or like Storm Rage, which, they do deal with this card, but that's fine. I'll just develop another threat on the following turn, most likely. The other 2-drop, again, the best 2-drop in the game, most likely, Mr. Smee, synergizes very well in this deck because you have a lot of captains as well, and this character will quest for 2 and not take any damage if you do have that captain character in play. So yeah, who would have thought, playing Mr. Smee in his actual archetype focused deck. Next up, I've opted for 2 copies of Minnie Mouse. I don't think you want to go for 3 because, again, this card sometimes does something, sometimes doesn't. But it's a very powerful card, so I think a 2 of is fine. If you see it, great. If you don't, it's totally fine as well. Being able to get free card advantage back, though, similar to what I just talked about with a whole new world, is pretty important. You are not playing the critical mass of locations to really get like a lot of benefit off this card to play like 4 of and just recur your locations constantly. But being able to bring back Jolly Rogers, being able to bring back the Bayous and stuff like that, very efficient locations, they only cost 1, and then replay them to proc your your John Silvers for more resist and more lore is very important. And again, this card is just free advantage. Your opponent is throwing a turn, wasting tempo, using resources to out a location. You just get it back for free when you ink. That's pretty good value, right? So yeah, 3 cost uninkable, 3/2 body too. The 3 strength is nothing to scoff at because, again, this gets around Brawl, gets around Big Sisu. They need Ice Block in order to deal with this. And then the same thing with the John Silver. As you saw from that demo match, this card is honestly like super powerful. We just haven't really had a way to exploit it. There was actually over this past weekend, for the first weekend of AZURITE C's release, there was an Amethyst Steel deck that played all of the powerful Amethyst locations, Library, Queen's Castle, and the new one, the Ferry Boat or something from AZURITE C. It played like, I think, either like 10 or 12 locations, and it just threw in the John Silver because this character is just good on its own. This thing is difficult to deal with, let me tell you. In my matches, and all 4 that I played, 2 with the old version, 2 with this version, I did see this card 3 out of those 4 matches where I was able to play it, and I won 2 of them, and then the one that I lost, I only lost because I got board wiped, and I didn't have any cards left, unfortunately, and then they just cleaned up my locations. But the John Silver, if I did not get board wiped, would have been able to just quest for game. So the card is very oppressive and demands an answer. Speaking of cards that demand an answer, Rhea is also a fantastic card in this deck to just keep your threats readied up. You likely don't need to use this card to proc any abilities because you don't really have anything that exerts for a very powerful ability, but just being able to like ready up Maui, challenge again, ready up John Silver, keep him protected. You don't need to ready up your Wendy, but it allows you to quest with something like your Beast Tragic Hero and then ready it back up, right? So your Beast doesn't just have to sit there and worry about I can't exert him because he'll get challenged. So I was running Donald in the 4-drop slot before, and it was just terrible. Like you wouldn't really have a big enough board to get use out of the Donald, even if you had the Jolly Roger to drop him and give him rush and have him take out a character to give +1 lore to your stuff, and you just don't need it. Like you have the Wendy Darling, you have the Mr. Smee, you have the shift lines with Moana and Mickey for your 1-drops. You have enough ways to generate fast lore. Like the Donald is honestly just slowing your game plan down. Rhea herself quests for 2, and the John Silver can quest for, as you saw in that demo match, like 3, 4, or more, depending on how many locations you throw up. Plus, the locations will potentially be getting you some lore. Next up, I was thinking about playing the Captain Hook Pirate, but honestly, Maui's just better. Why play a card that is contingent upon having the Jolly Roger on the field in order to get its rush ability? Because that character says when you banish a character in a challenge, you can ready it, and it's a 5/4 body. So again, you need Jolly Roger to get use of it right away. And it's just like a weaker version of Scar because it does not have rush inherently, and a weaker version of Maui. They're both inkable. They both cost 5. And while the other one is a pirate, like Maui's just stronger. So unfortunately, Maui is the better honorary pirate in this case. Mickey Mouse, we've already talked about why this is relevant, and the same deal goes for the Moana. The game, one of the games that I won after the update, because I was not playing this card before the update to the deck. But I really do like this card because what you can do, what's really like, it's really, really interesting. Okay, guys, I mean, I wish I could post my matches with players, but what I did was I had a Jolly Roger on the board, okay, and I had a 1-drop Moana move here for free, okay, and then I think it was like turn 4. I didn't do it on turn 3, but on turn 4, I had I think I had a Mr. Smee and like a Minnie Mouse at the location, and I quested with the Smee, I quested with the Minnie Mouse. I shift the Moana onto the 1-drop Moana, and then because she's automatically at the location. Whenever this character quests while at a location, ready all of the characters here, and they can't quest for the rest of the turn. So this card quested for 2 more, so I got like a total of 5 lore that turn. I readied back up I think I said I had the Smee and the Minnie Mouse there, and then they were safe, right? And what's even crazier is like if I would have had more cards on board, if I had like the Rhea, I could have inked and then readied up the Moana again too. So it just kept all my stuff protected, but the Moana did get taken out next turn, but it's fine because it kept these things protected, which gained me another 3 lore the next turn, right? It was a pretty cool interaction. And again, the reason you play this, I mean, I don't think you necessarily need to play more than 2 because it doesn't fit the archetype. It's not a pirate, but it is a captain. And it doesn't synergize to like move it to the Jolly Roger because you have to pay 2 to move it, and then hard casting it feels bad. But when you do get the shift off, it's great. You can always ink it. The shift is also a shift 3, so it helps facilitate that turn 3 singing Whole New World for you as well to refill your hand. It's just really great. And then like I mentioned, Beast, Tragic Hero, if you're in a grind game, right, you want to play this. If you're just going for the aggro strategy, you just drop this you just ink this and don't even bother playing it. But if you're in a grind game where you need card advantage, you probably try to establish this card and draw your extra cards to survive that grind game. But this deck is pretty fast, I will say. I was really impressed after the update. My matchups were less stressful from actual players, and like before the update, like I got blown out one game. And like I said, the game that I won, I should have probably lost, and that prompted me to change the deck. And then the 2 I played after that, even though I did lose one again, it was much closer, and I felt much more comfortable. For the removal, I'm opting for 2 Baboons. This is just basically these removals are just for Diablos. Like, if your opponent drops a Diablo, you just need an answer to it. The Wendy Darling is also a potential answer, right? Being an evasive 2/2 when you have a pirate on board. But aside from that, having these cards is pretty helpful. Now again, people are really migrating towards Cove to protect their Diablos, so that is something to consider. You might need a combination of these cards, which isn't great, and then obviously Brawl just straight up doesn't work on it. But the nice thing is, giving Rush to all your characters, you can just challenge the Hidden Cove. Get that Hidden Cove out of there, brawl away the Diablo, right? Stuff moves here for free. So, the deck actually has some teeth. It actually can do some work here. 4 Whole New Worlds, I already discussed this. You have a couple of singers. Maui can sing it even, but ideally, if you're really going for that aggressive push and you need to refill your hand early, singing it off of a shifted Mickey or Moana works really well. And then for your locations, you play 11 of them. 4 Jolly Rogers, I think it's absolutely necessary to play these. The card is actually insane. I really liked it in testing. Really good with the pirates, of course. 2 or 3? I should have 3 in here, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 3. Okay, 3 Bayous. It's a very weak location, but you don't even care about that anymore because Minnie Mouse will recur it, and you can just replay it for 1 ink. That's absolutely crazy. And then again, it helps you sift through your deck. If you move people here, it only costs 1 to move there. And it boosts up the John Silver, which again I think is the way you want to play Pirates. There is a non-John Silver variation you could play, but I just think that's way weaker. This one's way more meta competitive. I was testing out 2 Agrabahs. I didn't draw it in either of my 2 games that I played after. I didn't play this in the version 1, but playing this in version 2, I only played it. I only saw it in the simulations. I didn't see it in my actual matchups. But the thought process behind this is, well, it's just a decent location to drop. It gains me 2 lore. It only costs 3. Yes, it's very weak with only the 5 willpower, but again, Minnie Mouse can bring it back for free. So if I do see the Minnie Mouse, I don't feel bad about losing this. It's free card advantage when I ink to get this back, replay it, or use it as ink for the following turn. So pretty good there. And another card that I added after the update, and didn't see it in either of my matches, and I don't think I even saw it in any simulations. I did mulligan it away when I drew it in my opening hand, but in theory, this card could be good. Galactic Council Chamber. It's a 3-cost inkable location, 1 to move there. It has 7 willpower and 1 passive lore. And the combo with this, ideally, well, it's just a location for John Silver. But if you move John Silver here, this location can't be challenged. And then obviously your John Silver basically gets a permanent +1/+1 on resist and lore, right? Because they can't challenge that location to out it. I guess they could hide away it or something technically, but that's fine. The John Silver also gets boosted by it, so the John Silver is harder to out. And then any other locations you have, make the John Silver and that location, the council chamber, very difficult to deal with. That's the theory. I haven't actually seen it happen yet. But regardless, it's just a location that generates you lore. The other card I would consider to add in would be the 7 Dwarves Mine. I did think about adding it in, but I didn't end up adding it in because I do think if you play that, you want to play at least the 1-drop Happy and some docks. That's obviously what like Amber Steel is playing now, which is pretty strong because you get the proc 2 damage. But I do think that this is decent enough. But again, if you wanted to be a little bit more competitive, you probably go the dwarves route. You probably don't even play the characters, you just play the dwarf location, because even just moving your stuff there for 2 and dealing 1 damage is probably just better than trying to go for a gimmicky combo. But who knows, it might actually be relevant. Haven't tested this one out yet. Anyways, that's the deck list. 61 cards, only 14 on inkables, so not too bad given that 4 of them are 2-drop Wendy Darlings and 2 of them are a 3-drop Minnie Mouse. Your main bricks, air quotes, is if you draw multiple whole new worlds. And then the Jolly Rogers, yeah, drawing multiples could be kind of sus, but it's really usually not too bad because it means your opponent has to deal with 2 of them. They can't just deal with 1, and plus it still benefits the John Silver Greedy Treasure Seeker. So that's going to do it for the deck profile. Maybe I'll hop into one more simulation, or if this video is too long, I may go to posting the simulations in another video. So yeah, let me know what you think about the deck list.